Kentucky is 5-0, number 20 in the country. They're playing the number 1 team in the country. It's an exciting time. Not exciting when you play Brock Bowers, though. I think Mark Stoops is tired of playing Brock Bowers out of market.
Why wouldn't he be? I mean, we got the Gronk kind of. It wasn't a comp, but it was kind of a comp.
Did you know that
same level
Stoops
player.
coached at Arizona when Gronk was there?
I should have known that. He's got to have some Gronk stories. Like,
oh, man.
There's got to be some Gronk stories somewhere.
It wasn't just a Gronk comp. There was a Michael Jordan comp in there, too. He said stopping him is kind of like stopping Michael Jordan. Called him an absolute freak.
He's going to get his, so Kentucky's got to worry about stopping everybody else. Before we get too much more into the Georgia game, let's talk about what went right in Kentucky's win over Florida. Like it, the defense is pretty good. And Stoops is kind of like, he got asked, what do you need to do better defensively? He's like, yeah, they just need to keep doing that. Keep doing that. It's exciting stuff to watch this defense play football right now.
Yeah, I think the depth really showed on Saturday, too. There were guys getting after it that maybe a lot of people don't notice, maybe that aren't really close or really following them very closely. Derek Jackson, Keaton Wade, Darian Henry-Young.
Alex Safari.
All those guys played well, and then they got the stars on top of it. Right, so and there's even stuff they can do better, like Stoops mentioned today. Andrew Phillips probably got beat early in the route on the go ball down towards the end zone at the end of the second quarter. So there's still stuff they can improve on. But again, I think we saw a confident head football coach today, like a guy that feels like his team still have the best football ahead of them, and a team that feels like they can go and beat some very, very good teams. Nick, this is I believe the 4th year in a row they've played the number 1 team. Alabama 2020, and then 3 years in a row Georgia. So this is a game they've been in before. They haven't always played super well in this game, and Mark Stoops talked about that too, trying to draw from those experiences. But this is this Georgia team is probably a
more vulnerable.
And they're still really, really good, but they're not the same Georgia team of last year or 2021 or of that Bama 2020 caliber, I would say. At least right now, we'll see what happens, and I think that's got Kentucky, I think, with some confidence going into this matchup.
One thing that doesn't give me a ton of confidence, though, Drew, I don't like when the passing game is struggling and then you might have 2 receivers out. I didn't even notice that Tavian Robinson was hurt. Yeah. Didn't notice that Barrion Brown was hurt. I guess he kind of was pulling a hamstring or something after the drop, but Stoops, it doesn't sound I'm worried that neither of them will play against Georgia.
We didn't get much of an update from him after the game or today. Robinson looked like a left ankle, but he came back in the game in the 4th quarter, played a few snaps, then went back out. His doesn't seem too severe. Brown, we're all kind of guessing, but you certainly don't want to go to number 1 without 2 of your best playmakers, even if that group has been a little disappointing to date.
We did see him after the game leaving the locker room, and he looked fine then. He was celebrating, hopping up and down on the sidelines. But
Stoops said at the KSR postgame show that he thought they'd both be fine. That kind of didn't get out because it was just on that one radio show. So they both could have finished the game. Even though he didn't say it today, I'm hopeful we see both of them.
It almost didn't seem like an injury report.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like just need to play better. Maybe it was a shot. Maybe it was
see, that was a part I couldn't get either. It's like, are they hurt or are they just bad? So we need to Kell and Anthony Brown to play more.
That's kind of maybe how I heard it at first, but then at the end it kind of sounded like an injury report. He's pretty mum, to say the least, when it comes to the injuries. Especially this year, it's been a little bit. He's kicked it up, I think, a notch. So we don't know. Kenneth Horsey, for those that are into anime, I've been told that means he's fully healthy. His tweet on Sunday, but then Mark Stoops saying, made it sound like he's not going to be back, or he might not be back. So we don't really know with the injuries. We're just playing the waiting game.
With the receivers, let's just assume they're fine. It seems like it won't be too bad, whatever it is. It's just so weird to be going into this game at 5-0. We spent the whole summer talking about, we got Leary and these receivers. We just got to get Jeremy Flax going. Today, he's Offensive Lineman of the Week. We got to get the running game going. It's looking fine. It's just so bizarre that everything we expected. Cornerbacks, too. Max Hairston.
Yeah.
Will he win that spot? I think he won that spot. It's so weird that we're heading to Georgia almost halfway into the season, and we're wondering about Dane Key, Devin Leary, Barrion Brown. Tavion's been good. A little issue with maybe an injury here, but it's so weird that that's the position group we're focusing on.
It's also weird, too. I think a lot of people are wondering, what's Drew Franklin's favorite anime?
I was a Dragon Ball Z guy for like a month in middle school. Probably haven't seen one since.
Is Pokemon?
Goku? Isn't that Goku?
Yeah. Is Pokemon technically anime? I used to watch that show.
I'm a little too old for Pokemon. Yeah, I think I had a driver's license when Pokemon was big. So.
Pokemon are back, too. My nephew's going to be a Pokemon for Halloween. Who would have thought? Pokemon are back. Pokemon.
Back
They were big in the 90s. Kentucky beat Georgia some in the 90s. Kentucky going to beat Georgia Saturday? There we go. We're tying it all back.
Perfect transition.
Yeah, you like that perfect transition. But does it feel weird that the coach sounded confident? I'm feeling kind of confident. They've done this. They've covered 5 straight games. 2018 was the last time they haven't covered the spread. These games have been close.
Yeah.
And Georgia's starting slow. Kentucky's starting really fast. If you can get those trends to continue and pop some explosive plays, because that's really the biggest thing that's been missing in these games is Georgia hasn't given Kentucky any offensive explosive plays. But right now, there's a lot of guys on this offense, on this roster, that you can start the band anytime they touch the ball.
Since Brad White became the defensive coordinator specifically, that's when that cover streak started you talked about. They haven't scored they've scored more than 21 points once, and that's the 2021 team that was one of the best teams we've seen in the last decade, 2 decades plus. Mainly the defense, but still really good offense. Kentucky's defense is good enough to win this game, full stop. It's can the offense score enough points? Like, how many points do they need to score to win the game? Like, to me, that's the big question this week, sitting down and figuring out how many points is needed for Kentucky to win this game. And I think the reason you see some quiet confidence, is they know there's a lot more there still on offense, because we just talked about it. The big dogs aren't playing like big dogs.
They're not eating yet.
They're still waiting for Leary, Brown, and Key. They're waiting for all of them to really have a breakout game. It hasn't come for any of them yet, and you have to think it's coming eventually. I think that's where the confidence stems from,
Right.
because they know they can kick it into an extra gear or two on offense, and they know defensively they're borderline like top 10 unit. And if you put that together, they know they can go beat some teams in a year where we're seeing a lot of parity, where the top teams are maybe down a little bit than typical.
It's just you hope that offense would start clicking. I don't know, maybe before they went to Georgia, right? Like maybe we had that like one game where it's like, oh wow, Leary's just phew 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 phew. We haven't had the phew phew just yet, but there's been a couple bombs, some big bombs in there. So really, if you think about it, hell, if Leary only completes 60% of his passes or 50 like he has the last couple of weeks, it don't matter, Drew, as long as 4 or 5 of them are some bombs.
Yeah.
And you can look at it as we know they're capable of it. Sure, it's disappointing they haven't done it yet. But at least we can still say that if they do get that going, we checked a lot of other boxes already. A lot of the concerns you had all summer kind of already figured that out. The one thing you thought was the obvious, the one thing you thought was given hasn't clicked yet. So it's not you can look at it as, yes, I'm disappointed, or wait till that figures it out.
Just
And
wait.
we keep saying maybe next week. We're now at week 6. But maybe if it's at Georgia, you're burning some ships in Athens.
Oh man, you got a lighter?
I do not.
Oh man,
You don't need too much. Well, they hold them to 6 last year in Lexington. It was 30-13 or
I
something.
think they've scored.
They played them pretty close in Athens 2 years ago. The defense is not intimidated.
They've
Just
scored
need
3
offensive
touchdowns
prop.
in the last 3 meetings. Does that sound right? 3 touchdowns in the last 4 meetings. They
Okay.
didn't score a touchdown on 29 or 2020. Scored 2 in 2021. Scored 1 last year. So the offense has been the thing in this game. They've never really put game pressure on Georgia.
Right.
Because offensively, they just haven't been good enough. Are they good enough to do that this year? Because if they are, and the way Georgia has been playing, this game is going to get in the fourth quarter, and it's going to be in doubt. And if that happens, that's really all you can sign up for, I think, going in this game, is get into the fourth quarter with it a one-possession game, and then go play it out and see how the results come out.
2 SEC games this year. Kentucky has had lightning fast starts. Georgia, we saw when they played South Carolina and Athens, a little slow to get going. If Kentucky can hit the ground running again, maybe punch Georgia in the mouth, we'll see how they respond. Because even though this is Georgia, they're number 1. It's not the Georgia we're used to seeing the last couple of years.
and to Stoops' point too, I'm pretty confident that Kentucky has answers for everywhere but Brock Bowers. So if he's
How do you have an answer for that guy?
I mean, if you're going to make one person on the field beat you, make it the tight end, right? Like
Bowers had 2 receptions for like 10 yards in this game last year, and there was that short on the second quarter. They blew him up short of the sticks. It was a bad call. They caught him out of bounds instead of letting the clock run, and Georgia got to kick a field goal. If they don't kick that field goal, the final score is 13-6 last year. So they had answers for him last year. Now, that was a totally different scenario because Kentucky just didn't have the offense to really go and beat them last year. The year before, he was a man-child in 2021. I think he had 5 for 101 and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
And last week was kind of – Georgia showed the answers to the test, I thought, last week. When they were in doubt, it's find 19 and throw them the football. 14 targets, 8 receptions, over 100 yards, had the game-winning touchdown late in the fourth quarter. When the game's on line, they're going to them. So Kentucky's going to have a plan for them. But again, the defense is going to keep them in this game. It's just whether the offense can go and finally score some points against a Kirby Smart defense.
One thing's for certain in the KSR plan for this week in Athens, Adam Luckett, Stephen Peake, and I will be there. If Kentucky wins, Drew, you might just have to do all post-game by yourself.
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry, yeah.
Whatever. Heck, I might be in Athens with you. I might at halftime find a way to not drivable. We'll figure it out. But if I might just wake up Saturday morning and get in the car, see what's going on down there.
Tyler, be ready because we might just be indisposed. If the Cats knock off number one, would be the fourth time in program history. Lot on the line. 5-0 Kentucky going down to Athens, Catlanta. What are we getting? Cat puns? Georgia?
We haven't owned that city yet. Let's go own it first, then name it.
Okay, but if we own it,
Catverse.
Oh man, Clayton Street's in trouble. Clayton Street's in
Cat
trouble.
Street.
Yeah, Cat City.
It's a working title.